So as we add this comment and note, even though we've marked this up in Revit, we'll add a title, say remove. And when I select done, this is what's going to push it out to the rest of our team. So a lot of these projects where we have other folks coordinating in Revit, they're still remaining and retaining all this information while remaining in Revit. So what that means is for everybody else working on this team, whether you're in AutoCAD, Navisworks, Revit, and you have this model linked, we can select issue tracker, and it's going to populate this view. So once we've created this view within Revit, we've marked up this door. The first thing we're going to do is come into the chat box. So again, we're going to follow the same parameters you guys might already be accustomed to. For those who aren't, I have my secondary monitor up and my primary monitor is still in Revit. And we're going to go down our I button right here. So everything we fill out underneath our information button is going to be charted in the timeline, which is underneath our chat box. So again, we've already created a status. We've marked this up, the title. We're going to add a deadline. We'll say we want this done by Friday the 28th. I'll select done. And as you see, as I do this, these are going to be tracked and timestamped in our activity log. So next, I'm going to assign this to, let's pick out Nathan. And now Nathan Bennett has been assigned to this. I could then maybe assign this to, let's do Nathan Luckenbill instead. So I could switch the assignee. I can then add watchers. So this is going to be like CCing people on an email. So we'll select edit. And then I'm going to add in, let's just say maybe Armin and Nathan Bennett. And we'll also add James Ocean and Greg Keller. So they also have to be aware of this issue. And as you can see, when we add those things, they're going to be added into the timeline, and it's already going to be stamped. So public issue, I keep most of my issues as public. Private issues would be something that you wouldn't want anybody else to see on your team. So we could make that public and private, and the only people that will be able to see this is people that are added as a watcher or assignee. Additionally, if we select tags, typically we have seen a wide variety of things added here, but this is going to allow us to pull reports or filter by different things that are custom parameters. So I've seen, for example, if we want to create a actually we'll do a May 2nd coordination meeting, and we'll select done. So, oops, I got to add that tag and then select done. So you can see that I've added it as May 2nd coordination meeting. So that's going to allow us on May 2nd to come up to our filters button and filter by that specific coordination date, and we can see our topics that need to be discussed on the May 2nd coordination date. So once I've filled out this, you can see all these different parameters have been added in here. So once those have been added in here, I'm still in Revit, as you'll note, on my primary monitor. On my secondary monitor, I'm just doing this. So it allows me now to select 3D, and I can actually see the Revizto model. And as you'll notice in the issue tracker, it's highlighting specifically what I have highlighted in Revit. And that's bi-directional. So if I'm in Revizto and I create a isometric or a section box in Revizto, I highlight a few objects that are of concern, it's going to translate back into our Revit model. Additionally, as most of you guys are aware, it's actually tagging these on the plan as well. So we can jump into any of our plans, and it's dropping a little blue icon of where that issue is located. So what this means for other people in Revit, whether they're in your office or out of your office or in AutoCAD, is when they're looking at issues within Revizto after they've received that email, they don't need to necessarily launch the Revizto tab. They're going to just select issue tracker from within their Revit model. It's going to pull up this view. And for those of you in Revit who don't already have this view, we'll double click on it. It's actually going to create a Revizto isometric view, which is a temporary view in Revit. And then you can save that or duplicate that view and save that into your model if you'd like, but we don't want to bog down your Revit with multiple views. But you'll see that across platforms, whether it's AutoCAD, Navisworks, Revizto, it's going to highlight that object in everybody else's model. So while working, we can directly coordinate with them. and directly communicate now back from Revit. So I'm going to close this view out, and while in Revit, maybe I want to mark something up in the Revizto model. So we might be navigating through here. And again, I'm going to clear this section box out, and we're just going to create a new view here. So while in Revizto, I'm just going to make a quick section box to illustrate this, this point, and we're just going to highlight here. And it looks like I'm going to press Control, and we're going to select this pipe. This is going to be a problem. This wall is also a problem. And now all we're going to do is hit New Issue. So it's going to allow me to drag and drop the exact location of this problem. So this is going to be our 3D location. So it's going to take us to that specific coordinate location in the model. And then I'm going to do a call out. So I can say, MEP issue, test training, and select done. So when I select done, this is what instantly pushes it out to our team. And so we follow the same parameters that we do with assigning a deadline and a date, etc. You're going to see that updated in the timeline. And now, while being in Revit, if we double click on this, it's going to take us to that specific view within our Revit model. And because I didn't have this view in Revit, it's actually creating just a Revizto isometric view. So I'd have to save this because that view, unlike the displaced element view, is not in our Revit model. And this would work the same way for AutoCAD or Navisworks as well. So we can see exactly what is highlighted within our model. So I'm going to close this out. And actually, before I close that out, I'm going to go to our next topic, which is screenshots for updating the model. So utilizing the Revizto export scheduler, C4R, BoxSync, some other platforms that you guys are probably familiar with your projects and keeping models updated on a continual basis, you might have a model where the scheduled export might be this evening. And based on the work that we did this morning, our Revit model might show something different than the Revizto model for this afternoon, because the model has not been re-exported out of Revizto and updating the changes within our Revizto model. So maybe we want to say, hey guys, this pipe has already been removed within our Revizto model. So what I would do here is I would just do a standard print screen that we're accustomed to. So I just hit function print screen, and I would jump back into the issue tracker. And underneath here, I would just hit Control V. And it's actually going to show us the screenshot we just took. And so I'll just crop out the specific area that I want to showcase so everybody can see what I'm viewing in Revit. And I'll select our markup tool here, and I'll say, see guys, you can see this is highlighted. And it needs to come over here, select done, and I just send that. So now what we've done here is we've allowed people that are not technical or do not have access to the Revit model, maybe they're in CAD or maybe they're in Navisworks, so they don't see what's going on in your model. We can see exactly what's going on within this view from Revizto, and then also what it looks like from the architect's perspective in Revit. So this is a great tactic to use if somebody is trying to communicate with the field team and somebody back in the office is seeing something different in their model. So it's a more effective way to keep and coordinate and update screenshots. So we got about 7 or 8 more minutes on here before I open up for questions and go into some of the workflow questions that you guys might have. And I want to talk about pulling reports and viewing issues and closing those out. So one of the things you'll notice, and you have to give us a little bit of a break here because this is a demo model. So if we fly in here, we're going to see a lot of different issues. Hopefully your models don't look like this with all the different open issues that we have. But as you can see, as we are going through this model from a 3D perspective, every issue that we create in Revit, in Navisworks, in AutoCAD, in Revizto, on a 2D plan, etc., is going to be placed here. So it doesn't matter if it's a 2D view. There's a little icon dropped in that coordinate location inside of the model. So if we see these green issues, this is where somebody, this has been marked as done, and somebody needs to double click on this and realize, okay, this railing's been fixed, and close this out so it no longer shows up as an issue. This will go to your closed issue filter. But when we're flying through the model and we have a lot of issues like you can see today, or if we want to pull a report, we can do that through the issue tracker. So I'm going to select issue tracker here, and from here we're just going to type in either the title of what we're looking for. So maybe it is doors, we'll say, and you can see that we filtered out by all of our doors. I'm going to actually open up a different view here. So on our screen, we can see all of our door issues. So this is going to pre-populate depending on what we put in there. So you can see all of our issues would just filter in the issue tracker. So if I were to type in Windows, we're going to see where all of our windows, window problems or issues that have window in the title are located. To be more detailed, this is where we use tags. So within the filter button, we can do the same exact thing. So if I select the filter button, we can say, okay, well, I want to see just door issues that are assigned to Armin. And I'll type in, and we can see, okay, we got one issue that's assigned to Armin. So utilizing these filters along with the issue tracker is a really good way to, go from having 100 or 1,000 issues down to just the issues that you're looking for. So utilizing tag, especially for coordination or by discipline, is a huge benefit to that. So in terms of pulling reports, let's jump right into that. What I'm going to do here is I'm just going to utilize door as an example. So I'll type in door. So every issue that has door in the title we want to pull a report by. We're going to do all statuses, so even solved and in progress and open issues. And all we're going to do is come up here and select the export button. You can see that they're all selected. We'll say OK. And from right here, we would just pull an Excel report. So that's going to allow us to pull that into an Excel report instantly and be able to view the information we filtered within the issue tracker. The secondary option for reporting is going to be our reporting button right here. So when we open up the reporting functionality, we're going to see a little bit better graphical representation of this. So we can see by this report, April 10th to April 16th, this is how many issues we have. This is how many issues have changed. And then we can also go into our settings and specify a new report name or the report that we want to filter by, whether it's assignee or by the tag. And then we can go in delivery and we can say, okay, we want this sent now, or we want to add a recipient and we want to send it in a chart, PDF, Excel, and then we can specify the days of the week that we'd like that automated. So now we have a, in this case, a bi-weekly report that's going to be sent out every Monday morning. It's going to show me the issues from April 10th to April 16th. So we can custom define those parameters within the reporting function. So I'm going to go back into GoToMeeting here. I'm going to unmute you guys, and I want to open this up to some questions about some of the workflows that we just walked through there, and allow you guys to be able to ask the more detailed questions. So you guys should all be able to talk now, if, and I know we got some questions in the chat box as well.
Can you show the functionality with Navisworks, with class reports, how they go from Navisworks to Revizto and then from Revizto to Revit?
Sure. So the question was pushing clash reports from Navisworks to Revizto?
Yes, running the clash detection in Navis, the workload that would then bring the clash detection as issues in Revit, and whether or not they will be tagged automatically as clashes and things of that nature.
Okay, definitely. I'm going to open up Navisworks, and in the meantime, I'm going to answer Mario's question. Yes, does the project team need to have Revizto to send out reports and use all the functionality? Yes, because you're not going to be able to pull a report without the issue tracker, so you're going to need to have that installed on your computer. So the reporting or the ability to invite people is just under share, and we just copy and paste our project team in here. And when they no longer need access, we simply just delete these individuals out, and you regain a license back and assign that to somebody else. So I'm going to jump into Navisworks and answer the question around clash reporting. I'm sure we'll have a full session on that specifically. But just a high-level overview of clash detection and how that works. So the process in Navisworks is going to be the exact same. We're still appending the model. We're still setting up our clash detective reports the same way and tests. I have one test group in here in our demo model, as you can see. So we'd still name those, filter those in the same functionality. And we just go into Revizto, and we have an export clashes button within here. So when I select export clashes, it's basically going to pull up a mirror image of what we have in our clash detective. These clashes don't come in with the model, they come in as issues. So if you export your model, you're not getting those clashes in. Those clashes aren't coming along with the model export. So we can see here's our clash detective, and like I said, a replica of that is our test one. So we could open this up and we can see all the groups that we have within there, etc. And all we would do here now is, if we want to export this entire group, I would just check it and select export. So what's going to happen here is anything grouped is going to come in as a single issue, and if there's individual clashes, those are going to come in as a single issue. So by exporting that, it's going to come back into Revizto in the issue tracker. So what we do is just select, we clear our parameters, and we go into this clash button right here. And this is going to show us clash only issues. It's going to show us all of our clash issues. So if I select one, this first test group one here, you can see we have all these comments and notes on here. We can see the status of it. We can also see the screenshot that we have from Navisworks. By selecting 3D, it's going to show me the objects that we're clashing. And this is our transparency functionality to be able to see and filter out to see kind of where that falls in place of our model and what's clashing within there. So we can see this little red floor here is clashing, and we can play with the transparency settings to be able to better see that. So when we rerun our clash detection in Navisworks and re-export, the APIs are connected, so the status will close out. So if I go into, let's see here, if we did my closed issues, we'd see all the issues that were reran in Navisworks and were closed out by Navisworks. So typically we don't see people unless they know this problem is being resolved. Most people just put this in a solved status bucket. And then what they'll do is rerun the clashes, and then they can see exactly what's been closed out by pulling a report or looking in the filter button by closed issues. Anybody else have questions or suggestions, comments?
Is there going to be a follow-up on this to build off of this?
So we're taking requests specifically on, and I know this is the first one we've done, so we're open to requests and basically, doing a poll and seeing what people are most interested in. We certainly can go into more detail. We want to start kind of on a higher level of just some of the common things that we've noticed, even with the customers that are utilizing Revizto, such as objects being highlighted and that switchback functionality. We've seen a lot of folks jumping directly into Revizto and then trying to go back into Revit. So that's where we want to touch on that. It's a lot more efficient just to launch the issue tracker directly from Revit if you're spending most of your time in Revit anyways. So that's kind of why we selected those first two topics.
Okay.
And then the Excel reporting functionality through here was something that it seemed like folks had not were not aware of, and a lot of times they're going to the website to do that. So those are a couple of points we want to just start off with, and we can certainly dive in deeper on specific topics if those are presented to us.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Is there anything you had specifically in mind?
Everything. This is all new to me. This is all new to me, so it's something I got to learn from the beginning and build on.
Okay. And this actually goes for everybody. I'm not sure of the knowledge base that we have on the call here, but I'm just going to jump over to the Revizto site, and I want to show you guys this. This is a great resource that's constantly being updated. So if we come into support and we have the manual here, this is absolutely huge, and this is probably more of what you're looking for. So today is a specific project workflow kind of topic, and these are some more. These are going to be certainly would only make sense to people familiar with Revizto, utilizing Revizto on projects. So the focus today was on some of those strategies specifically. Underneath the Revizto user manual, coming into here, the nice thing about this is we have some flow charts, and then we actually have videos that tie into each one of these. So so I'll just jump into one example here. If we come up here, select this and come to our next page, we're going to see, we have the navigation screenshots, how to get around, how the workflow works, and then we have a tutorial video tied into each of these different workflows, and then some detailed screenshots on, from the very, very basic, how do we set up our Revit model, how do we export, how do we get the software. So this Revizto index, there's a lot of time that we spend on this, making sure that as features are updated and things are changed and made more efficient in Revizto, we're updating this. The total goal to this is to have somebody that has no familiarity with Revizto to be able to come in here and be able to get a basic understanding, and we supplement that with the training hours that you get within your Revizto package. So then when you have these one-on-one sessions with somebody technical in Revizto to walk through some of the workflows, we're not going through some of the basics like, how do we navigate through the model.
Okay.
So I'll have this sent out as well. But again, if you come to the Revizto website, just revizto.com, and come into support, it's the manual. But I'll have our marketing team include this along with the recording that we're doing today.
Thank you.
Quick question.
You bet.
With the issue tracking and collaboration, that's all done through the collaboration website. You can't do that locally. Is that correct?
No, that would be incorrect. So the way Revizto functions is everything is local within Revizto. So when I export this, and actually, as you'll notice from this manual and from this chart, when I export out of Revit, this is a local process. It's converting it just like you convert a RVT or an AutoCAD file to an NWC. It's just converting it locally on your computer into Revizto. From there, we have a choice to either present locally or we can share this to the cloud. If you want to do the collaboration portions outside of your environment, you're going to have to share it to the cloud. If you want these markups going to iPads, Surface tablets, Android, Google devices, etc., it needs to be obviously on the cloud. So once it's on the cloud, it works like a glorified FTP site. When we open up a Revizto project, you can see that these are local files that have not been pushed to the cloud. So if it says cloud, it gives me the ability to double click on it, and when I double click on it, it's going to open that up on my computer. So it's basically downloading that locally. So I'll click on this. It's going to pull this local if it's not local already. I'll select 3D, and now this file is on my computer. So I don't need internet connection once I've downloaded the latest copy of it to be able to access this, markup, coordinate, collaborate. So if I'm in the field and I have no internet connection, I can do everything I just showed you, markup, comment, and as soon as I get internet connectivity, all the issues are going to be pushed out to the team. So there'll be a little offline notification. So you can see Nathan's online right now. But if I was in here, I would have a little green or a little purple thing that says offline, which basically means that it hasn't been sent because I don't have internet.
But it gets pushed to the other users via the cloud.
It does. Yep. So everything, the only.
Sorry.
So when that's transmitted, when we create an issue, it's basically taking, that screenshot or that markup is capturing all of this metadata, all this BIM information from your model, and it's transmitting that on the back side of that. That's what allows those individuals to be able to view where that's located in the model. And that coordinate location is what's transferred with the screenshot to the cloud with your markup in real time. So I could have a chat with Nathan instantly here. One second, I want to make sure I get to, there's a couple questions here, and then I'll come back to whoever's asking one right now. Kevin had written in here, he said, any movement on being able to import Navis work sets into Revizto? Yes, you should be able to import work sets into Revizto. So we should be able to bring those in. So I guess that's a quick, easy one. Also, can you collaborate through shared location though, right? Yes, Jack asked about shared location. So once you export this project, so obviously the first step here is exporting that Navisworks or Revit project into Revizto. When you click share, that's what's going to give you the ability to share that to the cloud. So if I were to click share, it's going to give me the possibility to invite. That's because I've already uploaded to the cloud. If I did not upload to the cloud already, it would not allow me to invite anybody. It'd give me two options here. It would be shared location, which is going to be local with inside of your firewall. So basically utilizing your server to do that. So that's great for cloud projects or projects that want to avoid usage on the cloud or have specific security requirements. And then also it's going to say upload to cloud, which we host on AWS, Amazon Web Servers, which Adobe, Autodesk, and Netflix, everybody else seems to utilize as well, as it's the most secure cloud in the globe. How does that work differently than the cloud? So shared location, so basically obviously it's working locally within your firewall. So it's not pushing the model up to the cloud. So that'd be how it's different. So it's only transmitting the screenshots that you take via the cloud, which allows that to be pushed to the iPads. And then looks like Helen had a question, says, any way to use iPad cameras for document punch lists and such with the issue tracker? The answer to that is yes. So from a 2D functionality, we didn't touch a lot on 2D today, but I'll come in here, and all of our models exported, or all of our 2D plans from Revit are obviously pushed into here. So because these are intelligent plans, we have the ability to do things like jump to 3D, where we could select anywhere in this plan. So if I select this area, I didn't have this model open, so it's going to jump over to the toilet that I specified in that plan. So again, if I want to select someplace else in the model, I'll jump in here, and if we want to come into the stairwell, I just double click there, it's taking us into that stairwell. Because there's intelligent information tied to the plans, we're allowed to do pictures as well, which was Helen's question. So what I would do in the field is if we had a picture of the this stairwell, for example. What I would do is I would just hit this new issue button. We drag it to the stairwell, say, okay, well, we have a problem, we'll do the middle of the stairwell. And instead of marking up with these tools, I just select the camera button here on our iPad. I could take a picture, and then I can actually mark up the photograph that I have. And the cool thing about this is even though our markup would be done on a picture, if we select 3D, it's going to take us to that stairwell. So in your model, that photograph is actually tied to the 3D model, and there's actually a little blue issue. So this is another way where people would actually use a tag called photograph. So if I tag this photograph, we could filter by all of our photographic tags, and as you're going through the model, if you select the little icon, you're going to see photographs of that specific area showing up in your chat box. Does that answer your question, Helen?
Yes, and I have a follow-up question if you can answer that.
Yep.
If I create a markup, I create the markup in the picture, in the photograph, or I have a choice and mark it up in two places? I mean, how does it work if I have both piece of plan in my issue and a photograph to attach to it? Because I want to be able to kind of connect the actual picture with location, and I don't know where people will want to mark it up. You know?
And that, yep, so that's, yeah, good question, Helen. I'm going to walk through that. Mario, I just want to answer your question real quick. There is an iOS app for Revizto. You might not see that if you're looking from your cell phone because we don't integrate with cell phones yet. So it works on any kind of tablet device, I think anything over 6.3 inches or something like that. So if you're looking on your iPhone, you won't see it, but if you open up an iPad or iPad mini, you'll be able to see that. So answering Helen's question about specifically how would you mark it up in multiple ways, let's just say I want to mark up, we'll pick out a chair here, and we'll pick out this, and I'm going to select camera, and we're going to take a picture of that chair here and select confirm. And so what I would do is I could actually mark up specifically what was wrong with this chair. And obviously we're on a computer here, so we don't have the same quality we would on an iPad. Chair test. And so I can mark this up, select done, and so we're going to have that photograph on there. If we go back and we wanted to mark up additionally in here, what we could do is clear these issues out, and if we want to mark up this specific plan, we could do a couple things here. We could do our screenshot method that we talked about, and then we can paste that in there. So go back to issue tracker. So paste this in here, and we can highlight then the specific chair to give another area of recognition here. So we'll just highlight that, say that we want to look like this chair, select done, and now we have two different markups tied to the same issue.
Mm-hmm.
So there's obviously a number of different ways we can do that, but if we go into 2D, we can actually see exactly where that's located, and if we select 3D, it's going to take me to what that chair actually looks like in our model and where it's located.
Yeah, sometimes it's just picture better than words.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, so that's why we give you guys the ability to do both. So it looks like we don't have any other questions here. We got about 3 or 4 more minutes. So hopefully I was able to answer most of your questions. Is there any questions that I haven't addressed yet or I might have skipped over?
I think it would help if you have best practices kind of for that workflow, what you were just explaining to us on your website, because it's kind of hard to time the training and need.
Yeah, so again, going off of that, this Revizto user guide is going to be, most of our best practices. within here. The hardest thing with any platform that integrates into multiple processes and multiple phases of your project and multiple disciplines is it needs to be intuitive enough to adapt to the workflow that you guys are accustomed to. So the best practices often are what people are most comfortable with and the least amount of change with the largest amount of ROI for their project. So it's really, really hard for us to say, you know, we recommend that everybody does it this way. So we kind of just based our training off of what industry standards have been. So if you guys are taking screenshots in Revit, or if you guys are creating viewpoints in Navisworks, we'll address, you know, here is an alternative to creating viewpoints in Navisworks. We're just going to go to Revizto and hit new issue button on here. And that's going to be the easiest way to get away from, you know, constantly updating new viewpoints and NWFs to an FTP site and having this constant circle of poor communication. So it's really a hard question to you know, do on a global training session. So we try to do our best in updating that in the manual.
Is there any plans to integrate with some kind of project information management system, like maybe Newform or Constructware or something?
Yeah.
Or have the exporting capability to pull it into those?
Yeah, so in the future, we're going to be looking for feedback and recommendations and suggestions on how you guys would like that to function. So that's certainly within our one-year roadmap. We want to be able to take Revizto from Revizto, and everything in the issue tracker will be pushed to the cloud, so or pushed to a web browser. So we'll have a URL associated to each issue. So if you want to, you know, basically copy and paste a hyperlink to this specific chair test and tie that into a submittal or an RFI, we could, to give people additional information, and vice versa. Right now, we can obviously put in, you know, the new forma, whatever code in there, and it's going to be clickable. So we want to be able to have that vice versa. We're also looking at ways we can communicate and have things tracked in one location. So if we add something in here and it's tied into this submittal, it's going to be not just only tracking in Revizto, but also tracking in Newforma or Procore or CMIC or whatever other programs you guys are utilizing. So we haven't, we're just kind of in the R&D phase of that and kind of brainstorming on the best way to approach that. We've also been contacted about doing stuff with Slack and some of these other systems to be able to integrate a centralized communication platform. So certainly on the roadmap, and we'll certainly need feedback and look forward to your feedback to be able to do that effectively. So I think that's about our time, guys. I really appreciate you all joining us, and apologize for the limited amount of people that were able to make it. Again, I recorded this, and we're going to look into assuring that we can have more people on this webinar next time for our training session. We're going to do this again in 2 weeks. So if there's questions or feedback, we'd love to hear from you guys. You can email service@Revizto or sales@revisto.com, and we'd love to take your feedback and recommendations for what topic we should do specifically. So if you'd like to cover less topics and do them in more detail, we can do that, or we can cover a wide variety of topics like we did today and open it up for questions again. So thanks again, guys. I know your time is very valuable, and we really appreciate you taking your afternoon to spend 50 minutes with us.